Hello, fellow style explorers. These are 25 of my favourite styles that I have discovered while exploring the Midjourney style reference codes. I have prompted each of them 5 times for the comparison. Once with just period symbol and aspect ratio 16:9, followed by 4 different prompts in aspect ratio 9:16. This time I have selected the following prompts. Profile portrait, to have a human face represented. And profile, meaning from the side, and not a profile picture of a social media page. Porcelain fox, an animal, preferably from a different material, to see how easily directed the style can be. Cold moonlight harbour, a scenery, a place, maybe even some architecture, and a switch to a different time of year. Chessboard midgame, an object or objects. Midgame, because I didn't just want the chessboard only, but also the pieces on it. So these styles will be in a wide variety of styles, with main criteria being that I thought that I really like the style and wanted to see what else it could do. And the selection was made only based on the period symbol prompt. So I'm also interested to see if I like all of them equally after seeing them in other context as well. As always, these numbers will be quite small compared to the Style Explorer or SREF random. It's because all the numbers are already there, starting from 0 to over 4 billion. I just started looking through them in order from 0, because smaller numbers are easier to remember or handle. They are equally good styles as the longer number ones, and I have yet to come across identical styles. There is always at least a slight difference to them. I'll let you know if I discover completely identical styles, but I doubt it will happen. For comparison reasons, this time I actually remembered to use my seed number. It will basically lock the composition in place, so sometimes you will be able to see that the styles have similar compositions, and the only thing that changes is the style code, which you can replicate by using --SREF code in your prompt. I have also named all of the styles just for fun. The names don't actually mean anything for Midjourney. They are just there to describe the styles. Now that's all out of the way. Let's get started. 6. Bold ink landscape shading. Sunlit storybook realism with crisp ink contours and chunky gouache planes, balancing cyan skies, warm ochres, and steel blue shadows for calm, bande dessinée clarity. The subjects translate cleanly into this bold, plain, ink-edged treatment. Skin, porcelain, water and worn wood share the same tactile brush grain and disciplined lighting. Palette echoes, turquoise, amber, steel blue, lock cohesion. Cold moonlight harbour is the mood standout, while chessboard midgame flirts with clutter and slight perspective wobble. Profile portrait and porcelain fox stay sculptural and assured. 5. 6. Crimson cinematic graphic realism. Cinematic crimson noir, molten sunset reds and ember oranges against inky blacks, with lens flare glow, reflective water, and collage-style overlays for a dreamy, apocalyptic sheen. The subjects absorb the firelit palette and glossy rim light uniformly. Skin turns lacquered, fox fur gleams like enamel, and harbour waters mirror the molten sky. Cohesion stays tight through the crimson orange gold versus obsidian scheme and floating spark textures. Chessboard midgame edges into pattern overload and depth clutter, while profile portrait and cold moonlight harbour are the standouts for intimate glow and luminous reflections. 128. Electric duotone engraving. Electric duotone silkscreen, cyan and vermilion on deep black, using sharp hatching, negative space shadow, and poster flat shapes for a retro noir punch. Subjects compress well into bold silhouettes with cyan rim light and ember cores. Profile portrait reads crisply, while porcelain fox trades true porcelain gloss for a velvety screen-printed sheen that still fits the look. Cohesion is locked by the 2-ink palette and inky voids. Cold Moonlight Harbour is the mood standout for graphic reflections, and Chessboard Midgame teeters toward depth ambiguity as glowing pieces blend into the checks. 177. Neon Pointillist Landscapes. Psychedelic vaporwave airbrush with risograph-style stipple. Magenta to chartreuse to teal gradients drench soft forms in a dreamy, retro-cosmic glow. The subjects slip cleanly into this neon dusk, with rim-lit edges and fine grain unifying skin, fur, water and stone under the same luminous glaze. Cohesion is strong through the tri-neon palette and speckle texture. Cold Moonlight Harbour is the mood standout, while Chessboard Midgame edges into pattern clutter as glowing checks flatten depth. 248. Teal-orange digital etching. Teal-orange scratchboard pulp, inky blacks, cross-hatched shadows, and poster-flat shapes give a gritty maritime noir charge. The subjects take to the etched linework well. Faces gain expressive hatching. The harbour broods with scratched reflections, and the chessboard reads graphically solid. Cohesion comes from the tight teal/orange duotone and inky negative space. Cold Moonlight Harbour is the mood standout, while Porcelain Fox wobbles, its texture skews carved wood more than glazed ceramic. 258. Neon Dystopian Concept Art. Cobalt Hazard Orange Neo-Noir Matte Painting, all chunky palette knife strokes, hard rim light, and vaporous glow that turns ruined docks and alleys into a tense, cinematic set. Faces facet into plainer highlights. The Porcelain Fox reads like a luminous street statue, and the harbour shifts into a neon shipyard without breaking the brush rhythm. Cohesion is nailed by the strict duotone, low angles, and dense strokes. Cold Moonlight Harbour is the mood standout, while Chessboard Midgame edges into glare and depth flattening. 267. Emberlight Neon Sci-fi. Amethyst Ember Mysticism. Foggy forests and cosmic horizons etched with lightning filaments, powdery film grain, and radiant cores that turn shadow into glow. Backlit silhouettes and crackling rim light unify everything. Faces read like carved obsidian with ember veins. Foxes become spirit totems, and the harbour breathes slow, sacred luminescence. Cohesion holds via the amethyst orange duotone and dusty texture. Porcelain Fox drops true ceramic gloss for smoky velvet, while Cold Moonlight Harbour and the restrained Chessboard Midgame deliver the richest atmosphere. 271. Gilded cartographic engraving. Antiquarian gilt etching on vellum, sepia gold palette, celestial halos, fine cross-hatching, and ornate borders lending museum plate gravitas. The subjects convert into reliquary plates. Profile portrait becomes a medallion study. Cold Moonlight Harbour reads like an Age of Sail chart, and Chessboard Midgame turns into an illuminated diagram, all unified by the same hatch lines and parchment patina. Cohesion is strong through the monochrome gilded gamut. Porcelain Fox skews carved idol rather than glazed ceramic, a smart swap, while Chessboard Midgame risks legibility under heavy filigree. 342. Midnight gold linework. Midnight Art Deco minimalism, inky black fields, champagne highlights, razor-clean geometry, and generous negative space with moonlit discs and mirrored reflections. All four subjects compress into elegant icons. Clean contour lines and measured spacing give a refined poster-ready poise, with profile portrait and Cold Moonlight harbour the standouts. Palette discipline, black plus champagne, and consistent lime weight lock cohesion. Chessboard Midgame leans schematic and flattens depth, though the graphic clarity still suits the set. 369. Neon Twilight Dreamscapes. Neon twilight illustration with candy-coated gradients, violet, electric blue and magenta, slick rim lights, soft airbrush modelling, and polished speculars for a retro-futurist glow. Skin, ceramic, water and stone all catch the same glossy highlights, so the profiles, fox figure, harbour coves and chess pieces feel cut from one luminous world. Unity holds on the violet-blue magenta axis and mirrored surfaces. Cold moonlight harbour is the atmosphere standout. Chessboard midgame pushes into plastic glare and busy reflections, while porcelain fox convinces as a boutique sculpture. 434. Nocturne ink horizon. Monochrome Nocturne in deep cobalt and ink, sculpted chiaroscuro, wet sheen, and rolling storm clouds give the rural night a cinematic hush. Rimlit cobalt modelling binds everything. Skin turns sculptural. The porcelain fox reads like Delftware. Harbour water glosses over and chess pieces catch icy reflections. Cohesion is tight via the single hue palette and crisp speculars. Cold moonlight harbour is the mood standout, while chessboard midgame flirts with depth loss as dark pieces bleed into the board. 459. Glimmergrove fairytale realism. Glimmer fairytale rendering, frosted blues and lilac gold, pearlescent highlights, firefly bokeh, and plush carved textures give everything a luminous storybook hush. The subjects absorb the sparkle and glow cleanly. Profiles read like lacquered dolls. The fox leans plush figurine rather than true porcelain, and the harbour becomes a moon-blushed cove. Cohesion holds via the silver lilac palette and drifting motes. Cold moonlight harbour is the mood standout, while chessboard midgame edges into clutter as highlights and reflections pile up. 526. Portal, bloom realism. Portal lit dreamscape, cyan magenta plasma bloom, volumetric fog, mirrored water and backlit silhouettes with a soft filmic haze. All four subjects inherit the vapour glow. Profiles gain nebular crowns. The fox shifts from porcelain to a spectral familiar. The harbour doubles the portal light in glassy reflections, and the chessboard sinks into haze. Unity rides on the tight palette and consistent volumetrics. Profile portrait is the standout for sculptural contrast, while chessboard midgame loses depth as bloom mutes piece separation. 532. Fairylight bloom village. Fairylight cottagecore illustration. Pastel lilac, teal and honey gold with sugar glaze highlights, plush forms, twinkling bokeh, and ornate floral framing. Subjects take on the rosy bloom and gentle linework uniformly. Profiles glow. The porcelain fox reads like a boutique figurine, and the harbour turns into a candy coast with starry reflections. Cohesion rides on the lilac teal gold palette and glitter drift. Cold moonlight harbour is the atmosphere standout, while chessboard midgame verges on decorative clutter as borders compete with the board. 572. Archframed cosmic fantasy. Retro archframe sticker print. Burnt orange suns, cream and charcoal inks, half-tone grain and die-cut borders give everything a postcard badge vibe. The subjects convert neatly into decals. Portraits read as cameo stickers. The fox shifts from porcelain gloss to matte vinyl, and the harbour becomes a tidy travel card without losing atmosphere. Cohesion comes from the orange cream palette, arched framing and thick keylines. Cold moonlight harbour and the portraits shine, while chessboard midgame edges into icon overload and flattens depth. 577. Occult Grove inkwork. Occult pulp woodcut, blood-red fields, soot-black ink, and weathered parchment, carved with savage cross-hatching and macabre iconography. Profiles, fox, harbour, and chess all read as ritual engravings. Faces take on witch trial etching. The porcelain fox becomes a cracked leather mask, and the moonlit inlet turns into a blood moon plate, unified by coarse hatch and parchment tone. Cohesion is ironclad in the crimson ink duotone, though Chessboard Midgame piles on skulls and props, and Porcelain Fox swaps ceramic gloss for rough talismanic grit. 591. Etched Spirit Whispers. Haunted fairytale etching, soot graphite, bone-white chalk, and thread-like vermilion scratched into rough paper, with wispy strokes and smudged shadows setting a melancholic folk horror hush. The subjects absorb the scratchy pencil ink language. Profile portrait gains wind-tossed hair and chalky skin. Porcelain Fox turns papier-mâché totem. And cold moonlight harbour flows like a moonlit folk river without breaking the texture. Cohesion is strong in the soot/bone/rust palette and cross-hatched mist. Chessboard Midgame is the only wobble, where crowded narrative props and a skewed board muddy the read. 610. Two-tone blockprint drawing. Graphic two-tone print, coal black with persimmon and bone accents, crisp contour inking, flat fills, and starry speckle giving a bold poster snap. The subjects slot cleanly into the silhouette plus line treatment. Profile portrait reads iconic. The Porcelain Fox becomes a charming folkloric emblem, and the harbour condenses to tidy lighthouse vignettes without losing mood. Unity holds through the restricted palette and generous negative space. Chessboard Midgame is the only fuss. Ornate frames and filigreed pieces start to crowd the board. 639. Vamp Noir Elegance. Velvet Vamp Noir. Inky blacks washed with mulberry and amethyst, sharp comic inking, fashion editorial lighting, and nightclub glints over moonlit backdrops. In every subject, the purple-crimson palette and sleek contouring hold. Profile portrait looks editorial. The harbour smoulders under violet moons, and everything shares that luxe nocturnal sheen. Cohesion is strong. Porcelain Fox trades ceramic gloss for plush couture, while Chessboard Midgame tips into baroque clutter with roses and hands, making profile portrait the clean standout. 665. Rust-toned grime cell. Rust noir dystopia, sooty olive blacks, oxidized reds, sodium lamp halos, and gritty film grain give everything a grim industrial hush. The subjects absorb the palette and spotlighting. Profile portrait turns cinematic and weary. The Porcelain Fox reads as a stitched mask, and the harbour sinks into corroded piers without breaking tone. Cohesion holds via olive rust hues, grime and deep vignettes, though Chessboard Midgame tips into clutter and patchy lighting. Portraits and harbour are the standouts. 696. Layered ink overlook. Layered cut paper travel poster look. Spruce greens and harvest oranges. Chunky gouache blocks. Half-tone grain. And stepped depth that stacks valleys like dioramas. Faces and fox nest naturally into the leaf-shaped plains. The Porcelain Fox reads like a folk ceramic figurine, and the harbour becomes a tidy postcard bay. Everything shares blocky edges and the same autumn palette. Cohesion is strong on the orange-green harmony and poster-flat lighting. Chessboard Midgame is the only near miss, where busy checks and towering pieces verge on clutter, while cold moonlight harbour stays the clean standout. 771. Oxide wash fantasy. Oxidized fresco collage, verdigris greens and rust ochres bleeding over parchment with flaked gouache, ink scrapes, and sun disk halos. The patina palette and dripping edges bind everything. Profiles feel like mural fragments. The Porcelain Fox reads as weathered bronze, and the harbour becomes a spired reliquary in thin washes. Cohesion stays strong through oxidized greens, rust blooms and paper grain. Chessboard Midgame is the wobble. Gritty drips and stepped cutouts muddy piece clarity, even as the mood fits. 817. Red Sun Inkstorm. Ukiyo-e times manga poster fusion. Vermilion sun discs against midnight indigo, cream and soot black flats, with crisp block print contours, paper grain, and speed line energy. The shared ink line, flat fills and repeating sun-moon emblems lock cohesion. Portraits read iconic. The porcelain fox sells as a glazed maneki neko, and the harbour stacks into handsome waterfront panels. Chessboard midgame is the only wobble. Aggressive foreshortening and dense checks crowd the read, while portraits and harbour are the clean standouts. 881. Teal bloom cosmoscape. Teal magenta baroque fantasy. Eclipse moons, sculpted alien foliage, lacquered highlights, and dense volumetric haze give a grand, otherworldly shimmer. Across subjects, the glossy, chiselled forms and teal mulberry atmosphere unify skin, fur, water and stone, as if carved from one enchanted cavern. Cohesion is reinforced by recurring eclipse discs and ornate framing. Cold Moonlight Harbour is the scale and reflection standout, while Chessboard midgame drifts into over-ornamented depth, and Porcelain Fox skews wax/stone rather than true ceramic. Still on brand. 902. Pointy Grayscale Adventure. Brutalist grayscale concept art, steel grey palette, slashy dry brush strokes, and needle-like spires under hard rim light and deep vignettes. Forms carry over cleanly. Profile portrait reads as chiselled graphite. Porcelain Fox becomes a sleek maquette on a plinth, and Cold Moonlight Harbour turns into a towering sci-fi key, held together by the monochrome palette and brisk brush economy. Chessboard midgame is the one wobble where heavy foreshortening and sketchy edges crowd piece separation, though the industrial tabletop vibe still fits the whirl. Alright, those were some of my favourite styles I have discovered along the way while exploring the smaller numbers of the style reference system. The Porcelain Fox prompt could have just been a fox, because the porcelain didn't really visualise with many of the styles. But then again, it might be a good indicator of how well the styles behave, or how well they follow the prompt versus how much the style just overrides everything. The chessboards kind of looked like chessboards, but some details were still out of place, like the chessboard size or the pattern, and even the placement of the chess pieces was a bit off. They were visually intriguing, but completely off with their accuracy. Let me know what you thought about these styles, and if you liked any of them. Of course, personal taste can vary a lot from person to person, so even though these were my favourites, they may not have been yours. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank my patrons and Ko-fi members. Their help is actually keeping this channel going, and it's nice to get some feedback and ideas about what to do next. I try to listen all of the requests and incorporate them into my videos in some shape or form. I post all of the prompt PDFs of all my videos on both Patreon and Ko-fi, and the members get to see my videos earlier than on YouTube. So if you want to support the channel, do check out the links in the description. But you can always just subscribe to my channel on YouTube, comment, like, and hype my videos. That is also always much appreciated. I thank you so much for watching, and let's continue prompting.